Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today it's going to be a little bit of a different video. I don't have a tutorial for you or a review or anything like that. I actually wanted to just kind of sit down and share with you my foundation collection. Just let me start right off the bat and with saying that I don't own a million foundations, but I also don't own just one or two. I do think I carry more foundations than the average person does. At the same time, I think I probably could own a lot more, but I don't. I wanted to do this video because I get a lot of questions from people, especially when I'm kind of out and about. People always ask me what foundation I am wearing and what foundation do I use. So it's a lot easier for me to answer the question what foundation I'm wearing at the time, because obviously I know what foundation I put on that day. But when people ask me what foundation do you use or do you recommend, it's hard for me to answer that because I do use a variety of foundations. I could literally make a whole video about it, which is why I decided to make a whole video about it, because each foundation I have it for a different purpose, and I use it at different times, and just depending on a lot of different factors will really help me decide what foundation I want to use at that time or on that day. Let's get started, because like I said, I don't have a lot, but it's not like I have just one or two. So let's get started into the foundations that I am using. I think I'm just going to kind of jump around here. Okay, so the first foundation that I'm going to be starting off with and talking about, and that I do use, and I'm so hesitant on calling this my Holy Grail foundation because I feel like that's such a big term to use and it's such a commitment. Even though we're just talking about foundations, but if it's not my Holy Grail, it is pretty close to becoming my Holy Grail foundation. So this is the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Matte Foundation. I did just start using this foundation this year. I picked it up maybe about 2 months ago or so. Still to this day, I am in love with this foundation. So much so that I would be happy just owning this one for right now and getting rid of all of my other ones, because this one has just really blown my mind. Obviously, the number one thing that I like about it the most is the fact that it is a drugstore foundation and it's such good quality for the price point that it's at. Also, the color range is pretty good too. Again, I like it so much that I would go out and probably buy my other two tones of foundations for my transition color and for the color that I am when I'm not so tan, because this color is kind of the color that I use when I am tanning. It's a little bit darker than my natural skin tone, but I would definitely consider going out and getting my other two shades just so I could strictly use this foundation, because honestly, nothing about it has disappointed me yet. So the reason I picked this up, because one, I heard a lot of good things about it. Two, it was from the drugstore, so I knew it was affordable. And three, the fact that it was a pro matte and it was a demi matte finish really caught my attention because I am oily. So this foundation I absolutely love. I'm not wearing it right now because my tan is actually still on the fresher side, so it's a little bit darker than what it is when it starts to wear off. So when it starts to wear off, I will switch to this one, but right now I'm using another one. This shade is just a tad too light for the color that I am right now, but if it wasn't, I would definitely be using this one. Also, the reason why I'm not using it right now is because I told myself to give it a break because I had other foundations in my rotation that I obviously wanted to use and not forget about. So definitely this foundation, I highly recommend it if you are on the more oily side. I've heard that if you are dry, it's not going to lay on as nice, but this one is definitely within my top favorite foundations. I absolutely love it. So this is the, again, L'Oreal Infallible Pro Matte Foundation. The next foundation that I own is going to be the Revlon, sorry, the top is a little grimy. So it's the Revlon Color Stay Whipped Foundation. When I first started using this foundation, and I believe I mentioned this before on my channel, I remember saying this story. When I first started using this, I was still working at Dillard's, and a customer asked me what foundation I was using. When I told her that I was using a Revlon foundation, the first thing she said was, "Oh my gosh, it looks like you're wearing something that is at least $60 because it looks so good." Honestly, the Revlon Color Stay line is phenomenal. This is the only foundation I've tried from the Color Stay line. I know they have the Color Stay Liquid Foundation. I've heard great things about that too. So if you are not a fan of something that is of a more thicker consistency, because this is in a jar, it's very thick, it's not liquidy, this is more of like a mousse type foundation. If you're more keen to a liquid foundation, or it's just easier for you for whatever reason, then definitely check out the Revlon Color Stay Liquid. Again, like I said, I've never personally tried it, but I've heard really great things about it. But what I will say about this one is that it lays beautifully. It is better for those on the more oily side. It won't give you a matte finish though. I've noticed that on me, it doesn't dry matte. It still looks very natural skin texture like. It has a shine to it, but it's nothing too oily. I love this foundation. When I wear it, I feel like it has excellent coverage, and it really just smooths out my skin a lot. It's a great summertime foundation too. It holds up really, really well with humidity and heat and sweat and all of that fun stuff we have to deal with in the summer. This shade is actually a little bit lighter than the shade I am right now. So this is one of the shades that I use when I'm kind of more like my normal skin tone. But even then it runs just a little bit warmer than what I am when I am at my palest. So I will switch it up. I just will use this pretty much at my home. I have traveled with the L'Oreal one. I will tell you which ones I like to take with me when I'm traveling. But this one, just the fact that it's in a jar and it can get a little messy. I leave it at home. It's strictly just here at my house. The next foundation that I like, okay, so I think I'm going to split it up. I see that I'm going in a pattern now. I'm going to do my drugstore foundations first, and then I'll do my high-end foundations last. So the next drugstore foundation that I own and that I actually really, really like, it's what I'm wearing today. It is the Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless Foundation. Again, really great drugstore foundation. And what I like about this one is that you have the option to get the one that's for a drier skin type. The matte and poreless is recommended for those that are on the oily side like myself. So this works excellent with my skin. As you can tell though, I have it on. I did put powder underneath my eyes, and of course I bronze with powder, but really the only places that I did powder were my T-zone today. And you can see right now that my skin doesn't look flat. It doesn't look completely matte or dry. I like it when my skin has oil control, but I don't like it to look very dry and dull. I do like a little bit of luminosity, and people tell me a lot that you are just glowing. Sometimes I just will say it's because I'm naturally oily. So after a while, when your natural oils do push through, really any foundation you wear is gonna get a little bit shiny, but not in a bad way. Like, the best thing I can say for those that are oily, there are different things that you need to do to control your oil, but sometimes matting out your skin is not the best way to go. But anyway, back to this foundation. It has a really great color range. They have a ton of colors to choose from. Again though, I keep this foundation at home because it doesn't have a pump and I need foundations that are not as messy to travel with. So this is definitely a foundation that I use when I am at home. Also, the bottle is glass, so you have to be careful. If you drop it, you're screwed. And the color that this is in is 130 Buff Beige. Again, this is the color that I am when I am tan right now, so this is what I am using currently. I love this foundation though. Honestly, it didn't break me out. My skin hasn't gotten upset with it. It doesn't settle into any pores or fine lines. Granted though, I do use a primer always. Now moving on to my higher end foundations. One thing that you need to know right off the bat, I am not comfortable with spending $60 on a foundation. I am not. So honestly, 3 out of these 4 higher end foundations I got while I was still working with Bobbi Brown Cosmetics and at Dillard's because we got insane discounts. So that is why I own them. I don't know if I would still own them if I hadn't got that discount. I honestly, I don't know. Not that there's anything bad with splurging on a foundation, because it is a really important part of your makeup routine. It's obviously your base. You have to have it looking nice. But obviously, if your skin allows you to, there are alternatives like the drugstore foundations. So I will start off with Bobbi Brown foundations because obviously that's probably what I have the most of. And if you guys saw my last tutorial, I am using my Bobbi Brown Longwear Even Finish Liquid. That's probably my favorite high-end foundation, was the Longwear Even Finish from Bobbi Brown. But I did finish it and I replaced it with another one. But these two foundations I use pretty much not as often, and I'll tell you why. So the first one is going to be the Bobbi Brown Skin Stick Foundation. This foundation is a fabulous foundation. The reason why I don't personally use it so often is because I do notice that it is easy to run out of this fast, especially if you're someone like me that likes a full coverage look. You do use more of this product than you would if you're someone that likes more of a minimal coverage, if you like a sheer coverage. And there is a lot of product, by the way, for those that do own this foundation, there's a lot of product left at the bottom of this tube. Granted, you have to scoop it out, but if you don't mind doing the extra work, you have a lot of product left at the bottom of this. So, you know, just a little tip there for you. But this foundation, I have it in the shade Warm Sand. This foundation runs for about $44 for this stick. I got it when I was working there. It was a discount. Actually, I may have gotten this in a gratis, which I think I did. But this shade is the shade that I am when I'm not tan, so that's also one of the reasons why currently right now I'm not using it so much. Also, this looks the most natural. This, and what I mean by that is that if you're oily, you may not really enjoy this as much because this has no oil control whatsoever. It's a beeswax base, so it's meant to mimic skin. Even if you're dry, this also may not be the best one. If you're extremely oily and if you're extremely dry, like you're on those way opposite ends of the spectrum, you're not going to enjoy this. If you have some shine sometimes, and if you have, you know, a little bit of dryness but nothing moisturizer can't fix, you're going to love this foundation, and it does really cover up that wide range. I will say though, to this, I love this foundation when I'm working with my clients. It's one of the foundations that I will go to. If a client doesn't want anything super heavy, but they still want nice coverage, I will use this one because it's in my Bobbi Brown palette that I have all these foundation colors in the stick formula. This foundation photographs really well. Also, just keep that in mind. And like I said, it looks the most natural. I will say though that I use this the most if I am traveling because it is so convenient. Like, you can't beat it. That's the one thing, and that's probably the biggest selling point that I remember we would always push on, is that the fact that it's just so easy to take with you. The next product, I will say though, when I first got this, I thought I was gonna like it a lot more than what I ended up using. I haven't used this one in a long time, so actually this is probably my least used foundation out of all the ones that I own. Again, I got this in a gratis, but this one also runs for $44, I believe, and this is the Bobbi Brown Long Wear Even Finish, but in the compact version. So the one that I was talking about just a little while ago was the liquid version that I just finished, but this one is the same thing in a compact. Difference between the two, one's liquid, one's cream, and one has SPF 15, this one has no SPF whatsoever. This foundation worked really, really well on clients that I remember I used to have at the counter that needed full coverage, but were going to be photographed. And I couldn't use a liquid on them because most of our liquids had SPF. I was afraid of the flashback of white. And this one worked phenomenal. I loved it so much, and I think I love it more on other people than I do on myself. I don't know what it is exactly, but it's also in the shade Warm Sand that I own, so I don't use it too often, especially right now since I am tanning, self-tanning. But I will say the best way to apply this foundation is with the sponge that it comes with, or with a sponge. And by sponge, I don't mean beauty blender. I mean a actual dense sponge, one of your typical compact cosmetic sponges. Even the triangle sponges work really well with this foundation. So the next foundation that I own is on the higher end side, and this one I don't use, and I'm not going to use right now because it is way too light for me right now. But when I am on the lighter side and I'm feeling fancy, this is the foundation that I've always gravitated towards, and this is the YSL Fusion Ink Foundation. Now the reason I got this foundation, again, I didn't get it in gratis. I got it when we had a crazy discount. It was half off. It was literally 50% off. If you guys know YSL price points, you know that it is ridiculous. They are expensive, and I believe this foundation is originally like $63. I did pay $30 for it, and even at that, it was still a lot. In my opinion, that's a lot. This is a great foundation for those, again, with oily skin. And I was so excited when they came out with this foundation because I know a lot of the YSL foundations were really great for those with drier skin or that wanted like a nice dewy natural look, which that's fine, but that's not what I like on myself. So when I tried this one out, I was like, whoa. Also, this was different than anything I had ever tried before. This one was so unique. The fact that it's so liquidy, I don't know if you can hear it. This was my first YSL purchase. I didn't know that their products smelled like this damn good. If you don't like perfumey scents, you're not gonna like this, but it smells delicious. So when I'm wearing it, I feel like I just smell pretty also. It is expensive. Would I say it's worth the purchase? I'm gonna say it's not worth the purchase as far as like, oh my gosh, you have to just save your money and buy this. You honestly don't. If you are just keen to buying higher end foundations, sure, give this one a try if you're on the oily side, because if you're on the dry side, it's gonna cling to any dry patches. But it's nothing that you need to get overly excited about, I will say that. And the shade that I use in this foundation is BD20 Warm Ivory. Okay, and then the last foundation that I own that's in my current rotation is one that is the newest one that I have out of everything, out of all of my foundations. It is the, drumroll, just kidding, it is the NARS All Day Luminous Foundation. So I kind of wanted to venture out and to see what else NARS as a brand has to offer. So my best friend, she's a NARS junkie. She absolutely loves NARS. So of course I went to her first and asked her what she knew about it. She owned the foundation, and it's such a funny story. And I have to share it with you because for any of you that have tried this foundation and you didn't like it for some reason, this may be why. Okay, so my friend had owned this foundation way before I did, and she loved it. And mind you, she is from where I live in South Texas, but right now she is up north, and her skin has been going through some changes because it obviously is a different climate as far as it's a lot more drier weather over there than it is here. Here it's very humid and hot and stuff. So she bought this foundation when it came out. She was like, oh my gosh, Catherine, like, you know, it's such a great foundation. I love it. And at first I was like, okay, maybe you're just loving it because obviously you love the brand. But she was like, no, it's excellent. It's a great foundation. So it had been in the back of my mind ever since she had raved about it. Well, after that, she started noticing something was going on with her skin. She wasn't sure, and then she actually kind of felt like it was the foundation. It just wasn't laying as nice as it did when she first got it. Well, after playing around with it, and then after me buying it recently, I told her the first time I used it, I did not like it because it just made me look extremely oily. It felt heavy. It was nothing like the reviews I was hearing about on YouTube, and I was honestly getting really, really disappointed. Well, coincidentally, that day she actually went and picked up a second bottle of this because she had finished her first, and the rep or the girl working at the counter for NARS told her, you know, she asked her, how much of this foundation are you using? And when she told her how much she was using, the girl was like, you really only need 1 or 2 drops of this, and it's the best way to apply it is with your fingers. So the first time I tried this foundation, I'm guilty. I think I used like 6 pumps of this because such little comes out of every pump, and it's such a loose consistency that I thought 6 was what I was going to need. And I kept, you know, putting it on the back of my hand, getting the brush, applying it. I felt like I needed more to cover another area of my face, and I just kept overusing the product. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm not gonna use my fingers because I don't like using my fingers for foundation, but I will take the suggestion of using only 2 pumps. And instead of picking up the product from my hand and putting it on my face, I actually dotted the product on the zones of my face and said, okay, this is all you're gonna work with, see how it goes. And lo and behold, it worked phenomenally, and it is an amazing foundation, and I love it. If you are on the oily side but you still like to look luminous but you don't want to look overly wet, this is the perfect foundation for you. If you are dry though, it's not going to be as moisturizing for your skin and for your needs. So if you're on the drier side, this is not, don't let the name fool you. It's not going to be your best option. The shade I am in this foundation is going to be, by the way, I love the way NARS names their products because it's actually just so confusing. I'm like, what? Like, where are they going with this? But I am in the shade Light 4 DeVille. That completes my foundation rotation, what products I use in it. So for any of you that have ever asked me out there what foundation I use, these are the foundations that I have used, I have tried, and I absolutely like at the moment. So with that being said, if you guys have a suggestion for drugstore foundations or any other foundations, whether it's drugstore or high-end, so weird to not get tongue-tied, leave me your suggestions down below in the comments because I definitely like to save those and keep those for a later time when I am looking for something else to try out. So you guys, these are the ones that I absolutely really like right now. I know these products, I trust them. So I hope this answers any questions that maybe you have about the foundations that I currently love to use on myself. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. Like I said, leave your suggestions down at the bottom. And yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!